Who's that?
Ooh. Ooh,
Mate, who's that guy? Who's that big guy?
That's my heavier brother. That's my heavier brother.
Really?
Isn't that Dan?
That's Dan there as well, yeah. There's
Dan.
Dan. That beard's a bit bigger than that now, I think.
He must, yeah, I think Dan sold the beard to Jeff then, obviously. That's what happened there.
That's 2014, that was.
Ooh.
I'll get rid of it for you.
No, keep it. I gotta put it on a
Is it-
shirt.
Let's introduce our next panel. Dario, welcome back. And
Hey,
thanks for
good to see
putting
you
this together.
guys. This is
CJ, good
a
to see
pleasure
you
as always.
again. And Mark. You guys
Yeah.
are gluttons for punishment. You're
Yeah,
back
we are.
after the 24-hour ordeal.
How you guys? Welcome.
It was fun, that one. So I know we're also squeezing on time. So I don't know if in the background if Gigi's ready to do a quick survey once we do the intros. We were talking about that.
Yeah, why don't we kick off with the intros and
yeah.
go ahead.
So just a quick hi to everybody. I hope everybody's been enjoying all this. This is always great. We're here to cover like what it's worth and estimating your time on a job. And our panelist, CJ Dobson's a colorist with over 12 years experience. She's from Australia, working in all areas of high-end TV commercials, feature-length productions, and additionally, she's also a CSI member. You can find her at cjdobson.com. Mark Todd Osborne, a Los Angeles-based award-winning senior colorist with over 20 years experience. His work ranges from features, television episodics, commercials, music videos, and branded content. And he also works for various post houses around town, as well out of his own company. And you can find him at ntocolor.com. I've been a colorist for 10 years. I work in New York predominantly on commercials, but I also do branded content, short films, documentaries, and features. And currently working at Bonfire under contract as their senior colorist, but I also have my freelance clients, and I'm also a CSI member. And you can find me at dariobigi.com. And what you'll see on the screen on Slido is the questionnaire, because we're trying to figure out who's looking and how we can share information. And it's always good to know who's our target audience as colorists. So if you can answer those questions so we can get a sense of who's looking at us, we can then kind of target or at least understand, what kind of stuff you might be working on. And I think if everybody's kind of entered, or if we had a good amount of people, it looks like we have a majority of freelancers. And we have about 18% staff and, contract short-term, long-term. That's also mixed in with the freelancers. And let's shoot to the next one. Your experiences, please.
Oh, that's good.
There we go.
You got some.
We got that. It's almost the
good
same
spread.
as the last time. We had 30,
Yeah.
30, 30. So
Good
that's kind
spread.
of that's our spread. So it's the missing or open target question, and I guess we can toss it to our panelists first. When it comes to just doing the jobs that you do, we know that it's going to be a variable. I've been interviewing people or talking to people on all kinds of forums, and we've heard just even earlier that somebody was working on a feature film for 15 months and other things like that. So in your experience, go to CJ, like when you're talking about the range of work, what are you seeing and how do you actually find your averages when you're looking at work? How do you determine that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so usually, is my audio working?
Great.
Yeah. Usually when I'm freelance, sometimes it'll just be dictated to me. You've got this amount of time. Like on a long form project for a feature, for example, the general rule is like how many minutes is the film is how many hours will be kind of allocated for the grade. So if it's a 90-minute film, we get 90 hours. Unless, they've got they're tight on budget. If I'm quoting the job myself, there's a series of different questions that I'll ask to kind of establish like budget, for one thing, what their expectations are. If you can manage their expectations, usually you can make a job work within the allocated budget. It's just how finessed is it going to be? How much time are we going to have to like experiment? So I just talk clients through that. How much, like, are they kind of set on their look, or are they sort of still want to play around and try different things? Because you need to sort of allocate time for that, and that's going to kind of blow out the amount of time you need to grade. Yeah, those are the sorts of questions I ask.
90, an hour per shot or per minute actually is a good rule of thumb. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Mark, how about you?
Well, it's changed a lot in the years I've been grading. At company 3, I was used to getting 2 months per feature, but again, those were bigger budget. When I left company 3 as a freelancer, it started becoming more like 14 days for an independent feature, and that was pretty cool. The last several years, though, I do so many independents. I've got some companies that are wanting me to do them in 5 days. I always try to get 6, 7, 8. I'd love to get 8.
And we're just talking about color. We're not talking about prep, and we're not talking about output.
No, we're just not.
Or,
And it's like CJ said, I do try to get an idea of what type of grade are we doing and how finesse and how deep are we going to get into windowing, rotoing. That's going to extend it. If they're going to get, like I did a Bruce Willis movie last year where we had only bid 5 days on it, but the director asked for such a complex look. He wanted that orange and teal, and it wasn't shot that way. So it took me 2 extra days to do that look consistently. And so I ended up having to get a little bit more for my time on that one because of that work. But I usually can suss that out at the beginning.
discussing that up front, so it's not anything that's going to be.
Once I have that conversation with the director, you can get that idea of what kind of work they're going to do. So
Gotcha.
that was just a surprise on that one. We didn't know they were going to go there. So
CJ, on short form or commercials, also, do you have like an average that you kind of come across? Because I know there are industry discussions that people have, but what's your kind of?
Yeah, I certainly get a feel for the style of commercial or the style of short film. If it's if it's a car ad or if it's beauty, they're going to want like probably double the amount of time that you'd normally spend on a commercial. But I think for commercials, generally I'd quote like half a day for a 30-second and a cut down.
Yep.
And if there's a bit more to the campaign, would do kind of a full day. But yeah, it's absolutely just establishing like, have you guys already set your look? Are we playing around? How many people are going to come into the grade? Because you need to allow for, agencies and clients and all of that. So just having discussions about like what they're expecting on the day, and absolutely that level of polish and finesse at the end. It's kind of
4 hours is what I've heard a lot too as well. So I've heard that, and I mean, actually through other conversations, some very high-end colorists said that he can get through 30 shots in an hour, and I was kind of impressed by that. But I'm assuming that commercial was shot so well that it's there's maybe not that much going on. And in the same sense, a client called me and I was bidding or discussing what was involved on a job, and I was like, yeah, probably for it was going to be 4 15s. I was like, it's probably going to take a day, 2 days, depending, but is there beauty work needed? And he's like, actually, there might be some cleanup work. He was like, but I can handle that. And it's like, well, that's a whole other thing where you have to ask those questions. Does it need beauty work? What are you looking for? All these are important questions. But the averages I've heard as well, 30-second commercial, half a day, but it does depend on when the clients are reviewing. Now that everybody's doing remote work, it's like, are they reviewing? Can we do a streaming session? Or when can they review it? Am I sitting around for a half a day waiting? Are they going to review it overnight because they're busy in the daytime? And how do you negotiate those kinds of, it's all about communication and getting all those questions up front.
Yeah, mate,
Super
that's
important.
changed. That's changed a bit for me there, where, it could be a 4-hour job if you had people in the room. But because you're going the Frame.io route, you're having to upload, then tomorrow they don't get back to you, they never get back to you. You're waiting for feedback. So what do? You try and jump in another job. So I sort of just go, well, that's going to be a day, but probably over 3 days, and go, this is the day rate. It's what it is. I'll juggle with other jobs. It's just about being a bit more flexible, I think, isn't it?
that's the
No,
best.
to keep them happy. I've seen so many agent peoples are turning down streaming sessions because they're so busy that they can't literally sit down and schedule a session. They just want to be able to watch the video in between meetings and then get notes back to us. And hopefully the notes are on Frame.io as opposed to a long multiple list of emails. When you start sifting through 10 emails, it's crazy.
I find this same.
And how many round of notes do you give them?
That's an interesting question. So with flat rates, I make certain specifications of like 3 rounds of notes where you post it, they give you notes, you make your changes, you post it again, they can give their last round of notes, and then when you review it, you have one little tweak. And I would say that to me is one of my guidelines for a flat rate project, because if you
Right.
don't say that's, and if you don't put that in writing up front, they will keep going, and then they'll suck you dry.
You got to.
Yeah, you just establish that that hourly rate beyond that. So if there's more revisions, it'll be an hourly rate. And
Somebody brought it up on a Clubhouse chat, and it was a great suggestion. There's no such thing. Never use the term overages. It's an additional approved cost. So this way the client doesn't feel like they're going over, and it's additional, and it's approved, and it's a cost. So it's some new terminology that, as we all know, in talking with people, how it's delivered and how it's softened to soften the blow or make everybody feel good is one of our client management techniques. So yeah, how do you handle the approved additional costs?
Yeah. I've also, with the remote stuff, I've had to get producers to have creatives and things on standby to approve, because I'm going on to another project and I absolutely can't come back to it. So I don't think you should be afraid to put pressure on them to, to have a look and to give you notes, because, we're all busy. And
yep.
I'm always having to send that email that says, hey, especially if I've been sitting around for 4 hours and I'm waiting for those notes. I'll send a little bit of a nudge note, like, hey, just let me know I'm standing by for those notes. We have this much time, and usually that sort of gets them into gear and getting those notes back.
Yeah, there's delicate ways to do it.
Yeah.
Another thing, I guess, something that I've done, which I found, I really like the hour per minute for a feature. Of course, that's going to depend on the feature, if it needs VFX work and all kinds of other stuff going on. So all of these are variables for everybody to consider. I've heard pretty much the idea of 2 weeks. The 80 hours is the preferred idea, even though independent people push us to 5 days. And then again, that's the work that usually needs to have more work done. Something I've come across with certain kind of branded content or TV shows that I like to do is I throw it into Resolve. I'll do a scene cut detect on it, and I'll get the shot count, and I'll average, depending on what kind of condition it's in, 5 minutes a shot. And I mean 5 minutes because that's ingesting, conforming, uploading, grading, 3 rounds of reviews, and outputting. And that kind of number usually averages out to something close to what it might be, or at least it gives you on the first viewing an idea of what it might involve. But that's as a scope idea of how to kind of determine, what, as you're looking at a project and you're not even sure. Of course, I don't think any of us give any bids until we look at something first. Like, one of the first requirements is you screen it. It's like if somebody asks you for a bid blind, it's like we can say 2 weeks for a film, but otherwise, and I was like, these are only loose numbers. Until I look at your cut, I can't guarantee you what this is going to be. And that's an important thing that, I think everybody should know, especially for the
Narrative. You got to see the reference.
Can I ask a question, Dario?
Sure.
So if you look at a show and you go, well, that's 10 days, and say you're $1,000 a day for the numbers, and they come back and go, well, I've only got $6,000. Does that mean, well, you only get 6 days? Because I had someone came back to me and said, well, hang on, you said it will take 10 days. How can you do it in 6? My film won't look any good. And I said, well, if that's all you've got, then I'll make it work. I'll work a bit longer on some days. I'll give you, don't worry, your film is still going to look good. But if that's all you've got and you want to work with me, that's how it's got to work.
I've had that, and my answer would be that in that case, the schedule is out the door, because that means I'm going to be taking on work on my regular hours, and on Saturday, that's where the extra day is going to come from. Or because I can't lose my regular rate because you don't have enough money for your project, which means it's good, fast, and cheap. We have to sacrifice on the fast. So I can do it for 6 because I want your project, and of course, looking at the project, I love the project. I want to work on it. I want to work with that person, whether we're building a rapport or it's just something great that I haven't done before. But that means, okay, I'm going to charge you for 6 days. I'm going to work on it 10 days, but it's going to be in my free time, or 4 hours a night extra, because I feel that passionate about your project. And that's where I'll make those, me personally, I'll make those compromises, but it's very project specific, to be honest.
It's very important that you said that, because you got to make that clear that when they don't have your rate that you like to get, then the ball should be in your court to say, yeah, I need to, you can't demand me to have this hard deadline at the end of this week. Give me some time, I'll budget in and between my regular paying gigs or my normal rate gigs. Yeah, that's where you have a little more flexibility.
And I think too, I don't want to interrupt, CJ, you wanted to say something?
Oh, no, I was going to say I do the same thing. So if someone comes to me with an independent documentary, short film, even a music video, usually I give them a quote based on a flexible session, which means they have to give me a window of like 2 to 3 weeks for me to fit that in around other work because it is discounted.
Yeah. I've had
and then even talking to them about what your regular rate is and how they're getting this benefit. That's another thing too, where when they know that you're doing that on the side, it shows that you're caring. And in the same sense, they also feel like they're getting a bargain. If they keep coming back to it and always want you to work off hours, that's all other conversation. But you know, I think that's a good thing you establish up front with that kind of dynamic.
Years ago, I used to get clients that would just say, look, Mark, I've only got, I just want Mark Osborne for 5 days, or that's all I've got of you. I'd love to have 8 days, but and I always tell them I'll give you the best 5 days you'll ever have. So, and like I said, sometimes we wink, wink, we'll put in a little extra time to make sure it gets done, what needs to be done within reason, of course. So.
Yeah, and I mean, you would say 10 days is like a pretty polished result. They might be happy with a 1 light, a 1 pass, as you might a documentary or TV or something. So again, it's just communicating like this is the level of feedback you'll be able to get, rounds of revision. This is how much time I can spend. I can still do a really good job. It's just not going to be as polished as if I had a few more days.
Exactly.
But you got to be fast. I mean, if you're fast, you're not going to be cutting it. You're going to do too many days and not making money.
It's a catch. I mean, I've not much as much as I used to, but I would actually just work, even if the budget was limited, I would still put in the extra hours at night because I didn't have as much of a life, or I don't have kids and family. So I would put more hours into the night because I wanted it to look that good, because I was also, especially if it was a piece that would be something that would be a reel or something else, I would be putting extra hours in. I didn't want to do it on a regular basis, but I also, nothing leaves my screen that I'm not really happy with, to be honest.
Mate, you're the only bloke in the East Village who never goes out at night.
It's because I'm older and I've already gone out since I was a teenager.
I do have to say, the company that started to, I generally get 7 or 8 days on independence, nice. But there is one of my clients, and they're a good client that has, their deal with me is they need it in 5 days. And it's what you see on Amazon and Hulu. I do a good job, I must say. I make sure they're right. But it has forced me to, it's been good for me to grow as a colorist, to learn how to maximize those days and spend less days just balancing and getting to the creative grade faster, and using color management and other tricks and things that I'm learning. Still giving them 2 days of letting them sit behind me and do their little fun finesse tricks, because I get the balancing done quicker. It's great. I love to have 8 days to balance, 3 days to balance a movie, but sometimes
if it's shot fairly well, scene referred, as long as something's not completely far afield, it gets you there pretty quickly. At least I found that.
There's always balancing. Scene referred doesn't solve everything.
It depends on how well it's shot, and that's
exactly.
So, but I guess there's actually, so documentaries, I've also heard, so in conforms for at least feature films on the high end side, they take at least 5 days to do conforms just because they're so complicated, is what I've heard from the higher end places. On a documentary itself, some people have taken over 100 hours. So at least over 2 weeks to conform certain documentaries, because you're dealing with so much media, so many different, it depends on the type of documentary. This is what I'm hearing from people. 100 hours to conform a documentary because it's mixed format, multiple things. Those items have to be turned into different frame rates. It has to be rechecked, and things of that nature. So that's something else for people to kind of know in general. Somebody spent 100 hours conforming, and they only spent 48 hours color grading a documentary. So,
that's crazy.
Well, other things I've heard is 300 shots a day on a feature film. and I'm assuming that's a film that's shot well, or are you getting through 10 or 20 minutes a day and you get your balance, and it all depends.
That's tough, isn't it? You need to be able to walk away, don't you? And that's the advantage of extra days. You go and sleep on something and you come back the next day and you experiment, you try something else and you go, well, that didn't work. It's hard on these.
It is.
Bang, bang. Yeah.
And it depends on the project again. Like, I'm in touch with Joey Diana a lot, and he's going through 1,000 shots a day on a run and gun reality doc, and it's just a balance tweak, and he's just running through stuff, and that's what that show calls for. So again, it's all of this is generalizations and really project dependent. There's too many factors. The answer, we can't give you a solid one, but these are the general scope of things that I've been hearing through the industry, and people, I think if all of us know what everyone else is up to, it also keeps us, all in the same boat. So
That's
I would say about the, oh, sorry, Mark, you go.
Oh, no, just chime in on what he said. Go ahead.
I was going to say with the conforming, I think for me, I have a really strong system of sort of specs and requirements from editors to supply to me. And it really helps if their budget is limited. You don't want to be spending 100 hours conforming. So often I'll get them to do their absolute best with an XML with source media, but also prep me a pre-conform master that I use as a backup for whenever something hasn't linked, just drop down to the bottom layer. Because unless they've got all the money in the world, it's too much time.
No, it's true. Other people have been saying they've been actually they've been training up clients to conform and resolve for them and send them DRPs. Yep, exactly. And that's been something that's, I would love to actually start getting some editors to do that, because I'm still getting XMLs from Premiere mostly. I haven't seen much Avid work these days, but that's because I'm in the commercial world. I'm assuming that's still more the feature length kind of stuff.
Can I tell you how that started real quick? How I trained my clients to just send me a Resolve project file. Years ago, you always
electric cattle prod.
With a cattle.
Electric cattle prod.
Yeah, that too. But editors would always say, "Yeah, my XML will pull in great," and I'd pull the XML in, and of course, 20% falls off the truck, and I can't find those shots because maybe it was a drone that was named 000 or whatever. So I started saying a few years ago, hey, tell you what, if you're so confident in your XML, take the free version of Resolve and pull it in and fix if a couple shots fall off, fix it for me, and then send me that Resolve project file. And editors, they were scared of it at first, but then they realized it's pretty simple to do. And so a lot of my clients now they just prep it and Resolve for me. So
that's good.
I appreciate that.
That's
good.
Good.
I personally allow an hour for a conform, and if it doesn't work, they get charged extra.
You're like, done.
Wow.
We're at the table, the blackjack table. Okay, no more.
Yeah, I mean, and also if it's organized well, if it's shot well, and it's all one timeline, and it's all from one main camera. If it's a feature, it's going to be a lot easier than multiple cameras they decide to do B camera with a different kind and everything else, and it's a lot of all those variables play into it. So also, I guess you guys have prep documents too. That's something that might be helpful to everybody. Like I've honed over a few years of like a checklist specifically for Premiere or Avid, to the point where it might be nauseating. Pro editors look at it and they're just like, ugh, oh, I completely see what you're talking about, no big deal. Junior editors look at it and they get scared because it's literally line by line. If somebody does know how to actually even add type to do a burn in, it explains it, because I'm handing it off to agency people who might be doing it, giving it to a junior, and I try to make it very specific. But it's
you said on Clubhouse that you're pretty protective of your document.
Well, I wasn't protective of it. I just realized that like I spent over the time of honing. It takes hours and days, and it's something that I specifically want. So
I've got it. I'll put it in the chat for everyone.
Oh, there you go. It'll be my next T-shirt, but the print will
be in the chat,
small.
Dario. Yeah, Dario shared it with me in confidence.
Well, no, and I feel bad because it's taken. I'll give it to you, Warren. I'll give it to CJ. No, Mark, I'm not giving it to you because Mark has it all figured out with his clients. But it's something that if you have a particular way of working, if you want something, start making your list for your clients. And this is for everybody out there who's under 5 years. Like you make your checklist, you have to figure out what's needed, and then you and it also has your stamp on it. And that's something you can be giving to your clients to make your life a little bit easier, because that'll cut down on your time.
Yeah.
And then you know what you're getting.
It's another thing that the CSI chapter thing works with, in having part of your chapter up there can be some of these documents talking about, you know, what we talked about, little documents, how to grade, little PDFs and things like that. So you can easily share those within the chapter and everyone's on the same page, which I think is a good thing. What the CSI is trying to do.
And even for the members, you can also just, you know, every time you send an email to a client, you're saving it, and you can copy and paste, and you can hone it specifically. You're always asking for what your deliverables are. If there are frame rate changes, you have your checklist that, of course, if you get into a phone call, you might forget something. And if you have that next to you and you're going down the list as you're asking these important questions about what the project's about, that helps you establish how long it might take. And of course, that's what we're trying to talk about. It's like figuring that out.
I would say, like, my biggest bit of advice to anyone is get something out early on Frame.io. Do not sit back. You get something out to them and get the feedback. Do not think, oh, I'll just send some stills, because guaranteed that won't work. And they will come back with the thing you'd never thought of, or this pack shot, or that. Get it out there, even if they're going to in Frame.io, write all over your images. You want to know what you got to do, because you're going to have to do it anyway. So you just delay in the agony, put it all on the table and go, here's my first pass. I've got to do some stuff, but it's getting there. And they go, oh yeah, can you? You may as well do that.
Are you able, I guess this will be different for a long format than short format. With
a longer form's harder, isn't it? Because it's, you know, a shorter form easier, or break down some scenes, give them some scenes rather than just some stills.
Yeah,
if you can.
If there are 5 voices involved in color, in the color, I always ask that they talk amongst themselves, and I want one voice on Frame.io. I don't want 15 people going, you know, it'd be cool if the grass is blue here, because I don't know if that person talked to the director about that. So you got to make sure that they all talk amongst themselves, and then maybe 1 or 2 voices. I don't mind the DP and the director, but just it makes it easier to look through those notes.
CJ, how's the reviews been going for you, like short format, long format? Are you able to post just stills, or do you go long live video, or what's your preference?
Well, I don't mean to rub it in, guys, but I'm in the suite with people most days now. Haven't been doing much remote stuff. Yeah, in Melbourne, we're in pretty good shape. So we're back in the room. When I was doing remote stuff, like I said earlier, I was pretty firm with the producers to have people on standby. Because they would have a tight deadline. So I'm like, I got to meet you. I've got to deliver for online. So you've got to let me know by this time. And yeah, usually I would have a briefing up front where we all talk through references, and I show them just some really before and afters, even over Zoom. It's not a very good way to screen it, but it just gets a sense of what their tastes are. Because when you're on the same page with the idea of the direction, at least, I find like I get very minimal feedback from that. And with tackling feature films for a first pass, I always spend my first day just doing looks. So the first day I don't even start grading. We just sit there and we jump around scenes and we try different things.
Pick your hero shots and you're able to jump between.
Yeah, and then we grab a gallery of kind of the look of the whole film, and that's my reference point for the first pass. And then I'll tackle the first pass, and depending on how much balancing there is to do, I try to get through it really fast, and if I can without clients in the room, so I can just sweep over the whole thing. And then we come in and I just get them to look over the first pass just to get a sense of the direction. If there are certain scenes that need extra love, and then we'll kind of spend some more time on those. And then, you know, wish list stuff, we just make little notes of wish list things we want to come back to if we get time.
DJ, you just brought up something I'd love to bring up for the room, is how we attack it. I attack it in 3 phases. It sounds like we're very similar. My first phase, I tell them, especially when a client when they want to get minutia on day 1, I'm just like, we need to throw the paint on the canvas. I need to just get the whole thing balanced out. That's phase 1. And then all those power windows and things you want to do, that's secondary. That's phase 2 or 3. I like to do all that on phase 3. I want to, because once I get the initial grades on pass 1, then I watch it myself. I don't need them there, because then I make other decisions when I see it all in context. you make these tiny little decisions to really seal the deal, to get it ready to present to your client. Then that's when I bring them back, because I say that's where you judge if your color is working, is at 24 frames a second. And then you push play. And then of course, then it's those, then I don't mind doing those finite details all day long if they want, where they want a power window or knock little areas down or whatever. So is that how both of you work too?
Yeah, yeah, for the longer form, absolutely. Get it out of the way first, second pass, get through it. And then, and this way, yeah, also depending on the schedule, if you have enough time to get to certain things, because it depends on if the project is budget limited, if it's something smaller, if you're fixing a lot more things.
I do know certain colors that like to do minutia day one. I just,
You get caught in the weeds. But
I'll
on
do one or
your
two.
note of reviewing for 24 frames a second on the short format side, when clients on the commercial side ask me for stills, I don't post stills, because I found that agency people will stare at a still for so long that their eyes will drift and they start picking out little things to the corner. So for me, because it's short format, I will get through and I will post. They're like, oh, send us some stills. And I'm like, I'll send, and then I just send them the whole cut. And this way they're seeing it in context. There's usually you can also add the mix if the mix is available. And when there's a mix attached, they usually review it a lot better. So things like that. Bless you.
Bless you.
Bless you.
You know, so on that note, little things like that to kind of absorb the client's deeper focus, especially the heavy agency critique, is better when it's in context, playing against shots. Because I've also seen when there's supposed to be two different scenes and they hang it up on the stills and they look too different, or maybe we should look the whole thing look the same, and they need to see it in context. So it's something that I kind of do to avoid that.
100%. I always try to avoid stills as well, unless it's for just a reference of a bit of a vibe. I'm not like for a long form thing, like this is kind of the direction of the whole thing. But yeah, certainly not for reviewing. It's always better to watch it on the run.
Yep.
And CJ, you finding that people really want to come out and come back to the room, or they saying, oh, just send it to me, same as we were doing like 6 months ago, or they embracing getting back to normal?
I think there's a bit of embracing getting back to normal, especially in the commercial world. Everyone wants to come in for lunch. They want their lunches. But no, with the features and I've just done a feature and I'm starting on a show where I'm working with people in the room. It's just, it is better, quicker.
Last week with clients too, back in Hollywood in a theater again, so it felt good.
Yeah.
New York people, not just yet in New York, agency wise, they're still, everyone's still remote and happily not in the offices, but that's a whole other dynamic. By the way, CJ, I finally saw Escape from Pretoria. It's gorgeous. So really nice job on that. So
is that the movie with Harry Potter in?
It is.
Yeah, he's good, isn't he, Harry Potter?
And the secret I heard from CJ is it did not look like that. So she actually made that film look like that. So it's not that it was captured in camera that well.
Available where? Where's it available? CJ, available where?
Oh, that's a good question.
You should know that.
It might be on Prime.
Yeah,
oh,
no,
it came out a little while ago. It's not new.
I think it's Prime. I forgot where I saw it. I think it's available. It's a rental still. It's not playing on the channels. You have to actually rent it.
Yeah. One thing I did think about in regards to like budget, quoting and pitching is to establish a cancellation policy. Do you guys have a cancellation?
If they cancel less than 24 business hours before a session, and I had other bookings that I turned down, like in other words, if there was like first hold and they accepted it and someone else was bidding, it's 50%. If I didn't have another booking, because sometimes my schedule can be more open, I can, if they're a client that I know, then I can let it slide, because it's also, I don't want them to lose money. But if I'm losing money, then they're paying for it. If I'm not losing money, then they're not paying for it.
Yeah,
I try to extend that as a courtesy.
I've had a few clients offer it to me, which was nice of them. They're like, hey, Mark, I know that right at the last 11th hour, they've canceled, and they said, look, we'll give you what they'll say, what's your fee for? And I just kind of came up with a little bit of a something to just to give them, but I don't have it like written down in documentation. It probably should, but it's sort of
it helps to have it. And I say 24 business hours because I've had people call me on a Friday morning to cancel for Monday. And that's kind of like the gray area where it's wrapping around the weekend. So I just say within the business time of 24 business hours, you have to be notified.
Yeah. Dario, we gotta bring this thing to a halt.
I think we covered it.
And we can go in a breakout room, which would be after the big quiz. If you guys
one last thing, Mixing Light was our sponsor for this session. Mixing Light's great. I love them. I'm still subscribed because there's always something new to pick up from Joey. One of the better, of all the options that are out there. So yay, thank you for Mixing Light.
There's a poll up. Where actually are you from? That's live on Slido. If you can go there, we're going to run a poll as well before we do the quiz, so we can get an idea on where you're from. Look at that. What a beautiful thing. UK is winning with Los Angeles. Come on, Aussies. Where are the Australians? Asleep. They're all mowing their lawn, doing their hedges and mowing their lawns.
I don't know New Yorkers.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Oh,
it's
there we go.
important,
There's
Warren,
a
that you
slow
tell
one
them that I think it's important that you tell people it's about 9 a.m. in the morning there and you've been up since 3.
Well, it is. And I do need another cold drink, I must admit. I've got the taste for it now. My lawn's going to look very wonky later. So will my golf. Hey, look at that. That's great. Thanks for that. That's a great spread of folks.
Nice.
Very nice.
Right.
Very good. Right. Let's go
Thank you,
into
CJ. Thank you, Mark.
I saw
As we
one on
do
Jupiter.
for doing all this, and also Gigi in the background and the ICA.
I have a question for CJ.
Yeah.
Where is that background that Gigi made you?
I know. I sorry. As Warren said, it's early in the morning.
Okay. No worries. No pressure. I saw it on the email and I thought, oh, okay, because I was going to do something different, but I saw you were going to use that. I thought Dario was using this, so I said, why not? So.
Oh, sorry, guys.
No
It's
worries.
okay. Your name is unique enough. People can find you as well, so it's all good. If anybody is looking for your work, great stuff on your site.
I decided to get for coffee instead of alcohol because I'm working today as well, so I couldn't do the alcohol like I was hoping to. Next time.
What time is it? What time is it where you guys are?
4:18 p.m. here in California, Southern California.
7 o'clock at night, New York.
Yeah, nice.
yeah.
Actually,
Depends on
Dario,
cost. Yeah.
you want a discount on the eye colorist classes, I'm afraid, because of where you came in.
Oh, that's right. I was like 5th or 6th. Oh, so it was an eye colorist. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Oh, it's an eye colorist discount. Oh, gotcha. That means I have to pay 50% to hang out with Warren and drink when he's in New York.
It
I
means
think
you
so.
get a live-
That might even just cover our bar bill. Maybe. Maybe not.
I think I met Warren in a looks class like 10 years ago.
You did, mate. That was it. That's where it all began, eh?
That's it. And my liver has never been the same since.
I
I'm
know.
scrubbing through all the people watching. I'm seeing Adam Hockey, and I want his hair. Hey, Adam,
Grizzly Adams there.
it looks good. I used
Right,
to have
next
hair
one.
like that years ago.
Online. Would you like for? Okay, so still online and classroom is pretty much king. Physical class is still up there. Color grading overall, which is, I suppose, is just matching and looks as well. It's interesting.
I was gonna, if HDR was there, I would have chose a class in HDR. That's what I'm
Yeah.
actually trying to brush up on.
Yeah, yeah. I think most people are the same. Cost. Yeah.
CJ, are you still doing? Are you dabbling in HDR?
Yeah, we have one of the shows
Ooh.
I'm doing soon is going to be in HDR, and we'll be last time we started in SDR and went to HDR. This time we're doing it the other way around, which I'm excited for. But I think it's going to be a bit of an adjustment for the DP and the
HDR
director.
10 or Dolby Vision?
I believe it's Dolby Vision. Yeah.
I heard recently on another discussion, I think the new 4.0 is pros and cons compared to the 2.9.
Okay.
I don't know
It's great.
And
No, there you go.
Man.
So Mark likes it. I heard from someone else that had some other
Man.
things.
Yeah, I like it.
It's
4.0 as well. All 4.0 for me.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
actually, there's an interesting tool from Igor Radidovic. He makes something called Metafire or Metafide, and it actually, if some of your grades are the same, it'll do micro nudges, so it'll pass QC for the Dolby Vision. In case you have if too many grades are the same in a row, he's got a program that'll edit the XML without making any changes to your visuals.
Very cool.
A shout out to Igor Radidovic for that.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to do another Dolby Vision, a Netflix show, Dolby Vision, coming up here in a month or so. Looking forward to it.
As more of a layman in this area, I would like to see some kind of classes on best work practices for switching over to ACES.
yeah.
Just,
So
using
color
ACES
management,
workflows.
color management,
Yeah.
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 Color management's a big
management.
one.
But
Yeah.
maybe with an input like on production as well, like, you know, things to look out for on set, to like if you get the opportunity to help set up that you can work from beginning to end.
Yeah, we cover all of that in the color management. There's a 2-day color management class. I think there's one coming up at the end of the month. And we do exactly that.
Fantastic.
And I think it's worth saying for any of our classes, if you've got something particular you'd like us to shoehorn into it, and that includes uploading a bit of media as well, we'll always try and do that and swerve that into it, or spend an extra hour discussing that sort of subject, because it's never going to be perfect for you when you read through the descriptions, is it? But we're always open to, yeah, and that's great for us because it might not be something we regularly do, so we get in and learn something, and it keeps it fun.